Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Actually, I I was supposed to be not here in the shul tonight because I had a Sheva Brachas, but at the Sheva Brachas they had a power failure. So I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to, their Wi-Fi was down. So I spoke, and then I ran back over here to come and broadcast from the house. And I see that the island went home. You're probably going to listen online. We're dedicated by Baruch Ian, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim Ben Abba, Esther Bas Yona, Avram Shmuel Ben Shmuel HaKayin, by Shalom Fogel, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Zeb Ben Yudaya, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas God, Yosef Ben Sion Ben Yaakov Zev, and for great Shidduch, for Chaya Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel, for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel Ben Bela Shein de Rivka, by A.B. Spry, the Refuah Shalema for Teiber Roiza Bas Hinda, and for great Zivugim for their daughter and grandchildren. Menachem Umansky is co-sponsoring for anybody that's looking for a Zivug. They should find it quickly and easily. And Eddie Chazan for the safety of Klal Yisrael and the victory of the IDF in the hands of Hashem. We are holding on this wonderful Monday evening. Let me report that I went to the doctor today and he said that I should give it another 3 months and continue doing what I'm doing. So at least he was happy with my progress and nothing dramatic to report, which is good news. We are holding by Vitzricha. We needed a lesson that an individual, the door is not closed to tshuva, and for a community that the door is never closed to tshuva. As it says, 3 lines from the top of Daf Hey Amud Aleph, V'tzricha. Di ashminan yachid, if we say that tshuva is always available to an individual, mifshum deloy mefarsim chetei, because his sin is not public, and therefore there's not such a chilul Hashem through his sin. Aval tzibur, but a public when it sins, like the golden calf, the mefarsim chetayu, where there is a desecration, a public desecration of Hashem, a malay. V'yashmin and tzibur, and if we say that tshuva is available to a tzibur, that's mishum, that's because the nafesh rachmayu, because Hashem has a lot of rachamim on a tzibur. Aval yachid, the lay, but on an individual that there isn't an abundance of mercy, I might think a malay, and therefore tzricha. This, let's try to mute people. Mahainu, the Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar Rab Yonason, my dechsiv, what is that which is written? Noam David ben Yishai, so says David the son of Yishai, v'noam hagever, and so says the man who hukam ol, who set up the yoke. Now, what does it mean he set up the yoke? Now, there is another pshat in hukam ol that ayin lamed is begematria 100, and he created 100 brachas that is the foundation of the Jewish home. However, here the Gemara says is that he introduced tshuva. Nom dav ben Yishai shehekim oilo shel tshuva, that tshuva is possible for any sin, even for a grievous sin like adultery. Amar Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Rab Yonason, koloise mitzvah achas b'olam hazeh. This is an exciting thing. All of us together are doing the greatest of mitzvahs now, Talmud Torah. Do you know what we cause? The mitzvah creates a force and mikadmosai vayleches lefanav la'olam haba, and it goes before us, and it escorts us after 120 to the next world. Shenemar, as it says, v'holach lifanecha tzidkecha, your righteousness goes before you. Ukvod Hashem ya'asveka, and the honor of Hashem will gather you in. However, it's also true that if a person does a sin, whoever does a sin, Ruvain, you're home and I'm here in the shul. And whoever does a sin, malafafosai. Here I run back to the shul and everybody goes home. Whoever does a sin, malafafosai, the sin envelops him. Umolichtay liyom hadin, and takes him to the Yom Hadin. Here's a person who spoke a nice round of Lashon Hara. That becomes a leech that leeches onto him to the next world. Shenema yilafosai orchos darkam. There, it gets attached to them the path of their ways. And the Gemara says the sin, a pit bull bites and doesn't let go. Rabbi Lazar, I'm a kshura by kekelev. It's tied to him like a pit bull. Shenema v'lo shama eleha. Yosef didn't listen to her. Lishkav etzla, to sleep with the wife of Potiphar. Liyos ima, to be with her. So what's the double lashon? To sleep with her, to be with her. Lishkav etzla ba'olam hazeh, to sleep with her in this world. Liyos ima ba'olam haba, to be with her in the next world. Amarei Shlakish, bo v'nachzik toiva la'amva yiseinu. Let us show appreciation to our ancestors. It's an interesting Gemara. Shil molei hein lo yichatu, because if they wouldn't have sinned with the golden calf, anu leibanu la'olam. The Gemara now thinks that if they wouldn't have sinned with the golden calf, they would have lived forever. And if they would live forever, there would be no need to have more children. Shenema ani amarti elikim atem. I said that you should be like angels. Ubenei elyon kulchem, like celestial beings. But chavaltem maseichem, your deeds caused destruction. Achein ka'adam temusin, and therefore you will die like humans. So if they didn't sin, they wouldn't have died, and there wouldn't be need to have more children. So the Gemara finds this very difficult to comprehend. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol niyeh b'dvaro.
If a person does tshuva, does that erase the Avera?
Yes. So, but the Gemara says, Lememra, do you mean to imply the Eloi Chatu, that if we didn't sin with the golden calf, lo yavamoltu, we wouldn't have children? Do you mean to imply that it would be a world without children? V'aksiv atem pruruvu, you should be fruitful and multiply. Says the Gemara, well, perhaps that means ad Sinai, that until Sinai you would have a mitzvah to be fruitful and multiply. But at Sinai, if we wouldn't have sinned, we would live forever. But by Sinai it also says that after the revelation, Ksiv leich emol lehem, go tell Klal Yisrael, shuvu lachem la'alechem, go back to your tents, which meant that they should go back and procreate. So you see that was procreation, relations even after Sinai. Says, no, that's l'simchas aina. That's only conjugal relationships for the pleasure of marital harmony, but not to have children. Says the Gemara, "V'aksiv l'man yitav lahem u'lebneihem achareim," that it should be good for you and your children afterwards. Says the Gemara, no, that's lo'isan ha'oimdul Har Sinai. That means families that were by Har Sinai, parents and children. V'amarei shlokish ma'idich siv zet sefer told us Adam. What is that which is written in the pasuk? This is the book of the accounts of man. V'chi sefer hayoloi l'adam arishan? Did Adam have a sefer? Says the Gemara, no. What it means is, Hashem showed the original man, Dor Dor v'Darshav, every generation and its Darshanim, Dor Dor v'Chakamav, every generation and its wise men, Dor Dor u'Parnasav, every generation and its lay leaders. Kevan Shegila Dor Shel Rabbi Kiva, when they reached the generation Rabbi Kiva, Samach b'Teirasai, Moshe Rabbeinu rejoiced with Rabbi Kiva's Torah, that he used to expound Tilei Tilim Shel Halachas, mounds and mounds of halachas just from the tagin, the crowns on the letters, V'nitzatzei v'misasai, and he was saddened by the harsh death of Rabbi Kiva at the hands of the Romans. Amar, and he said, V'li, and to me, Ma yokru re'echa keil. How precious are your thoughts, Hashem? In other words, we can't comprehend why you would give to such a righteous, wise person like Rabbi Kiva such a death. V'amar Rav Yosi, and furthermore, Rav Yosi says, Ein ben David ba, the Mashiach won't come, until all the souls in the repository called Guf are born. I won't forever contend. I won't always be angry. Just the spirit before me is delayed. Until all the souls which I made get born into the world. Says the Gemara, we're going to revise this. Of course, people will continue having children. But if the generation of Sinai would not have sinned, future generations would be naught compared to the generation that saw Sinai. You know, it says, Niskatnu Adairos. And by the way, this is a very big belief, a very major belief of ours, is the concept of Niskatnu Adairos. It's something that is unheard of by the Goyim. The Goyim, to the contrary, they figure that we're much more sophisticated than the ancients. What are you talking about? We have much more sophisticated technology. We have much more sophisticated knowledge of medicine, of the sciences. That's what the secular really believe. We, on the contrary, know that we're like midgets compared to the ancients. And by the way, that's built into every study hall. Never, ever, with the greatest of the Achrayim, the Chassam Sofer, the Rabbi Kiva Eger, they would never argue on a Rashi. Chassam Sofer and Rabbi Kiva Eger should argue on Rashi? Rashi as great, we can't even comprehend Rashi. Would never argue on Rav and Shmuel. Rabbi Yochanan would never argue on a Tana, on Beis Hillel. Never happened. And they are small compared to people like Ezra, Mordechai. The idea is the closer we are to the revelation at Sinai, the greater we are. The further, the smaller we are. And therefore, if they wouldn't have sinned, and they would have continued living, it would be almost as if we didn't come into the world. We would be so small compared to the people that saw the revelation. Says the Gemara, Lememra, are you implying that if they didn't sin with the golden calf, they wouldn't have died? Are you implying that? It says the parsha of what happens if somebody's brother dies childless, and what happens if somebody dies who is Yerush. But if there wouldn't have been death, then why does it say these parshiyos? Says the Gemara, al Tanai, they were given upon a condition. You're right, it wouldn't be if they didn't sin. Since they sinned, therefore there's a need for Parshas Yibum and Parshas Yerusha. Says the Gemara, Miksive Kra al Tanai, is the Torah given upon condition? Says the Gemara, yes. The whole existence of the world is given conditionally. If we keep the Torah. In the Hachiyam Reb Shimon Lakish Maidich Sivayev Vayivoka Yoim HaShishi. Why does it say the Hey Ayadiyah HaShishi? Malamid Sheisna Kadosh Baruch Hu Ma'aseh Bereishis. Hashem stipulated with creation. V'amar imekabel Yisrael Satayra. That's Hashishi, the 6th of Sivan Shavuos, or the Hey is the Chamisha Chumshei Torah. If Klal Yisrael keeps the Torah, Muta Vim Lav. I'll return the world to amazement and void. So the Gemara still is not comfortable with this discussion. As the Gemara says, Meisvei, are you telling me that if we didn't sin with the golden calf, there wouldn't be Misa? It says, Mi yitain v'haya levavam zelohem. If only you would have this heart and feel to me like you did at Sinai. But the Brisa continues, Levatel me'am malacham avasi yefshe. To cancel the angel of death, I can't do. Shekvar nigzik zeir, because of the sin of man, it was already decreed that man should die. Haloi kibu Yisrael es hatayra el kidei sheleitei umma v'losh sheletes ben. If you would have continued this heart, then no nation and tongue would ever hold dominion over you. So you see, but they would have died. So the Gemara says, you're right. There is the opinion of that Brisa that there would be death because of the original sin. But Reish Lakish holds like the following Tana. Hudamar ki haitan. And it's about high time, especially since we have the pleasure of a Monday night Mark Frankel. You think I didn't notice, Mark? I was already jumping for joy in my heart from the beginning. I mean, how much could the heart take? Mark and Aaron? I'm telling you. Welcome in Aaron, and Yaakov Warman, and Shali Zeitlin, and Chaim Lerner, Nachim Mansky, Saba, Baruch Ian, who needs a little bit more consistency, if you ask me. Too much ice cream. Shimon Klein, Mark Frankel, Dr. Guy, Dr. Black, Mel Zachter, Michal, Ruvain Shanet, Eddie Chazan, Mo Kushner, Yitzi Muller, Shalom Fogel, all the way up from Woodridge, Stephen Holtzman, Naftali Jablin, Moshe Lehman, Elia Shutman, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Abe Arbach, not sure who Galaxy A51 is. Might be Eddie Chazan, maybe. Nachum Chapler, that's who it is. Nachum, it's good to see you. Menachem, I heard that you're able to go with Yitz Baruch Hashem to shul a little bit. That's what they told me by Rabbi Asya. Anyway, you don't have to answer me, but I want to say that I was very happy that you should be able to go to shul. We miss you over here, though, but I'm very happy. Says the Gemara, Hu da'amar ki haytan. Reish Lakish, who says that there would be no Misa.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem, when someone pushes me, you go, and there's no, and you go right into Wisconsin in the wheelchair.
Well, I'm very happy for you, you know. You should be able to go to shul, makes you feel more like a mensch.
Yeah, I was supposed to have surgery today, but I got pneumonia, so.
Okay, so it's 1 second. It's Yaakov Menachem ben Sarah?
Nachman
Yaakov ben Sarah. Nachman Yaakov ben Sarah, you should have a refuah shalema b'sek shechel Yisrael.
Amen, thank you.
The fact that he has pneumonia doesn't stop him from coming on to the shir. I mean, says the Gemara, so who da'amar ki haytan? The Tanya, Reb Yaisi Aimer lo kiblu Yisrael es ha-Torah, el kidei shelo yeh ha-malach ha-mav shaylet b'hem. They accepted the Torah because Torah is chayim, ki chayim eim l'moitzeim. The original plan is it would make us invincible. Rabbi Yaisi Aimer lo kiblu es ha-Torah, el kidei shelo yeh ha-malach ha-mav shaylet b'hem. Shenema ani amarti alei elikim atem. I said you would be like angels. Ubnei elyoin kulchem. However, chibaltem ma'aseichem, your deeds ruined you. Achein ka'adam temusim. Says the Gemara, I Reb Yaisi nami haksiv laman yitav lahem v'livneihem la'olam. It should be good for their children and them and their children forever, which implies just toivu da'avi, just be good, hamisa ika. Rabbi Yaisi will tell you, amalach kevan l'leka misa, since there's no death, ein l'cha toivu g'dayla mazu, that's the best situation. I v'tananami haksiv ha'chein ka'adam temusim, which implies that before that you wouldn't have died. Says the Gemara, no, achein ka'adam temusim, death there always would be, because the sin of the original man. When it says achein ka'adam temusim over here, it means poverty. My misa, the additional anias, poverty. There are 5 that are considered like dead. Eluhain, ani, a poor person, summa, a blind person, rachman al-Itzlan, u'metzayra, a leper, u'mishein loibanim, and one who doesn't have children. Ani, dichsib kimesim kol ha'anoshim ha'mevakshim es nafshecha. All the people that sought to kill Moshe died. Umanin, who are the people that sought to kill him? We know the wicked Dasim Aviram. Says Gemara, Mesa, did they die? What do you mean? They were still around by their Das Kairach in this week's parsha. It means that don't worry, they're not significant anymore. They won't be witnesses in a murder trial because they were impoverished and they were like they are dead. Summa, how do we know that a blind person is like one who is dead? He placed me in darkness, like the dead of the world. Mitzayra, because Moshe Rabbeinu said about Miriam, don't let her be like one who is dead. And we know from Rachel, give me children, and if not, it's as if I was dead. Now it's interesting, when I taught seminary, I would ask the girls, what was the they thought was the main role and success of being a woman. And most of the girls would say having children. And they would quote this pasuk that Rachel Imenu said, V'im ayin meisa anaychi. And I would tell them they're wrong. That's not why a woman was created. It says, Lo toiv v'yoysa adam levada. It's not good for man to be alone. Eseloi ezer kenegdai. I'll make him a partner, a helper. The woman was made to be a helper to her husband. And that's why there are going to be many women who unfortunately will not have children. So you'll tell me, Rabbi Weiss, there's also many women that won't get married. But there's no woman that doesn't have a basherta, unless she dies before age. 40 days before the creation of the embryo, Hashem designates a mate. Because Hashem is not going to allow a woman to be without her major role. Now, she could mess up and lose her mate. Today, we have a lot of people who nothing is good enough for them. Or I can't because I waited so long already, I gotta have better than this. It's a very big problem. Says the Gemara, Tan Rabbanon, Im bechukaisai teilechu, ein im elaloshin tachanunim. It says, if you walk in my statutes, it's a term, it's very interesting. Im sounds like if. It's a choice. But the Gemara says a very big chiddush over here. Ein im elaloshin tachanunim. It's a supplication. Hashem is hoping that we toil in Torah and walk in His statutes. V'cheina ho'omer. It says outright a wishfulness. Lu ami sheme'ali. If only my nation would listen to me. Kimat oivei machnia. I would humiliate their enemies. V'omer luik shakfta l'mitzvah. If only you hearken to my mitzvahs, then v'yehi kenar shleimecha. Your peace will be like a flowing river. V'yehi kechel zarecha. And your seed will be like the sand. V'tzetzoi meyecha. And your children, your offsprings, will be many. Tan Rabbanan. Going back to the verse, if only your heart would be like me, with me, like at Sinai. Tan Rabbanan. Miyitein v'yelavam zelohem. Amalem Moshe Yisrael. Moshe said to Klal Yisrael, Kfuyei Taiva b'nei Kfuyei Taiva. Your ingrates, the children of ingrates. When Hashem said to you, if only your hearts would be with me like this, you should have said, Hashem, make it that way. Haya lahem loymar. When the Rebbeinu Shem, HaKadosh Baruch says to Gemara, B'shosha Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, Mi yitein v'haya levavim zelohem. If only you would have your heart like this, Haya lehen loymar, you should have said, Teinata, do so. But they didn't do it because they didn't want to have to be indebted to the Rebbeinu Shem. People don't like to take things. They didn't want to be indebted. So that means that they were ingrates. The children, Kfuyei Taiva, we know that they were ingrates. And we're disgusted with this bread, this light bread that we can't even go to the bathroom with. I gave you, Hashem says, I gave you lechem abirim, the bread of angels. and you're disgusted with the bread of angels? B'nei kfuyei toiva, children of an ingrate, Adam Arishan, who Hashem gave him a perfect, beautiful, wonderful spouse in Chava, and he said, "Ha'isha asher nasati imadi," the woman that you gave me, he nasna li min ha'etz v'eichel. She gave me from the tree and ate. Af Moshe Rabbeinu, even Moshe Rabbeinu did not hint this rebuke until after 40 years. In Chumash Devarim, in Arvas Moav, only then he said, "V'lo nosan Hashem lachem leiv l'das." Hashem didn't give you a heart to understand. Amar Rabba Shmami no loikoi inishadate deravia. You cannot understand the mindset of your Rebbe ad arbon shnin. It takes a long decades of maturity to understand what your Rebbe is trying to impart to you. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Bana, Mai dichsiv ashreichem zoyrei al kol mayim. Fortunate is you who planted by all waters, mishalchei regel ashar v'achamar, who sends out the feet of the ox and the donkey. Now, there's a lot of metaphors over here. Zorei is referring to planting, to tzedakah, because it says ziru lachem tzedakah, plant righteousness. The charity, we don't get its rewards right away. We plant it, and later on it brings wealth. Later on it's tatzum u'maves. Later on it saves us from Gehenna. Mayim is Torah. A mayim ala Torah, just like water comes from the sky. Torah comes from the sky. Just like water quenches thirst, Torah quenches the thirst of the soul. Just like water causes growth, Torah causes spiritual growth. So if you have tzedakah and Torah, that will save you from the Yetzer Hara of Shar. The Yetzer Hara of Shar is the Yetzer Hara of idolatry, and the Yetzer Hara of Chamor, which is the Yetzer Hara of immorality. Let's see now all of this symbolism in the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Bana, Mai dichsiv ashreichem zorei al kol mayim. Fortunate are you who plant by all waters, mishalchei regel ashar v'achamar, who sends out the feet of the oxen and the donkey. Ashreim Yisrael, fortunate is Yisrael, bizman she'oiskim b'Torah u'b'gemilas chasadim, when they occupy themselves with Torah, that's Mayim, and Gemilas Chasadim, that's Zriya. Yitzra Maser B'Yadam, the Yetzer Hara of Shara, of Avoda Zara, and Chamar of immorality is handed over to them. Ve'ein heim Misurim B'Yad Yitzra. It's an interesting concept, that tzedakah, amongst all of its benefits, also protects one from the Yetzer Hara. Torah we know protects, that we know. Barasi Yetzer Hara, Barasi Torah Tavimla. Here we have an Avoda Zara Heyamid Beis, that one of the benefits of tzedakah is it helps to ward off the Yetzer Hara. Shenemar Ashrei Zoyrei Al Kol Mayim, Ve'ein Zriya L'Tzedakah, and planting is charity. Shenemar Ziru Lachem Tzedakah, plant, sow charity, v'katzu lefi chassid, and you'll harvest according to the kindness. Ve'mayim ala Torah, mayim is Torah, shenem hoi kol tzamei l'chul mayim. Those that are thirsty go to the water. Now, by the way, this is a remarkable pasuk. There are people that have a sense that they're not fulfilled. They're missing something in life. There's a thirst. People call it a middle-age crisis, a retirement crisis. The pasuk says, "Hoi kol tzomei," if you feel this thirst, l'chu l'mayim, go to the Torah. Torah Hashem tamima mishivas nafesh, mishalchei regel ashar v'chamor, tana debei Eliyahu, la'olam yasem adam atzmei al divrei Torah, kishar la'ol, like an axe to the yoke, ukechamor l'masli, and to a donkey to its burden. Now, the Mishnah says that 3 days before their holiday, you cannot do business with them. So at this point, the Gemara takes this in the narrow meaning that 3 days before their holiday, you shouldn't sell them an animal, because they'll take the animal and slaughter it on their holiday to their god. Says the Gemara, Mi ba'inan kulei. Do you have to worry 3 days before? There's an interesting problem. We know there's a mitzvah of that you're not allowed to shecht oisoi ve'espenoi b'yom echad. You're not allowed to shecht an animal, a mother and its child, on the same day. 4 times a year, if you sell someone an animal, you have to say, I already sold its child, or I already sold its father, its mother. Because you have to be concerned that the person that you sold it to is shechting it on this day. For example, if you sell it Erev Pesach, or Erev Rosh Hashanah, they're going to shecht it. So if you sold already the mother, you can't sell the child, because they'll end up slaughtering them both on the same day. But you don't have to worry 3 days before, only 1 day. Says the Gemara, V'tanan ba'arba prokim b'shana, ha'moicher behema l'chaver, if you sell an animal, tzarech lo'idiyai. You have to tell him that ima macharti lishchait, I already sold today the mother, or bito macharti lishchait. Because you have to assume that both want to shecht it on this day. Ve'elu hein, Erev Yom Tov Achron Shel Chag, the Erev Yom Tov of Shmini Atzeres, and Erev Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach, and Erev Pesach, ve'erev Atzeres, and Erev Shavuos, ve'erev Rosh Hashanah, and Ukdivrei Beis v'Galili, af Erev Yom HaKippurim. Af Erev Yom HaKippurim b'Golah. Says the Gemara, that's different. Hasam delachila, where it's for eating, sagi b'chad yuma. There it's enough 1 day. Hacha de la krava, here where they're bringing it for an offering on their holiday, they need 3 days. Now the reason why they need 3 days, to make sure that there's no blemish. Says the Gemara, la krava sagi b'tlasi yaimei. For an offering, it's enough 3 days. We inquire 30 days before Pesach. It's 2 weeks. So we see that when it comes to buying the carbon Pesach, they buy it way before 3 days. Says that's because our blemishes are much more minute. Even a small cataract in the eye by us is a blemish. Even a small cataract in the eye, we need 30 days. That it's only a if it's missing a digit. It's enough 3 days. How do we know that a b'nei noyach can't be makriv if it's missing a limb? It says by noyach, Umikol achai mikol basar, from all living, all flesh, shnayim mikol, 2 from each. Now once it says mikol basar, why does it say mikol chai? Amar Torah have behema shechayin even rashi evar mishala. That not only is it basar, is it living, but also all of its limbs are intact. Says the Gemara, that extra word achai is telling us that it can't be a treifa. Hai mebayilei lemute treifa delay. Says the Gemara, treifa, that you shouldn't take on to the teva treifa, that's milichya zera nafka. That's that it should be able to that it should be able to continue the species, the chayoy zera nafka, to keep the species alive. So we know that it can't be a treifa because then it won't keep the species alive. Says the Gemara, that's good according to the Man Yama, that a treifa cannot give birth. Then we wouldn't know to exclude treifa from l'chayoy zera. Says the Gemara, Amakra itach, says that Noach should take with you b'doimelach. So just like Noach is not a treifa, so also the animals can't be a treifa, and therefore when it says chaya, that's coming to tell us that its rashi evarim should be intact. Says the Gemara, v'dilma Noach gufei treifa. How do you know Noach wasn't a treifa? Says the Gemara, Tomim ksiv bei. It says that he was whole. V'dilma Tomim b'drachavoy. It means he was whole in his ways. Tzadik ksiv bei. It says that he was righteous. Dilma Tomim b'drachav. Maybe it means he was whole in his character. And Tzadik b'maisav, and he was righteous in his acts. He did righteous acts. He wasn't guilty of chamas, of corruption like everybody else. Says the Gemara, it can't be that Noach was a treifa, because then when it says itach, was the pasuk telling you that you should take a treifa like Noach? Don't think that Noach was a treifa. Would the Torah say that you should take like you a treifa and shleimim loyal, and you shouldn't take animals that are whole? Rather, Noach was whole. And therefore it says itach, that you should take other animals that are whole. When it says chaya, that comes to say that the rashi evarim should also be whole. Says the Gemara, v'hashta denafkele me'itach, that it should be like Noach. So l'chaya zera lamali. Why does it have to say to continue the species? Ime itach, havamine, it means take with you l'tzavtza ba'alma, for companionship. But maybe v'afilu zaken v'afilu saris. You could take even an old animal, or even an animal that was castrated. Because Rachmana Zera, that the person says l'chayoy zera, that it's to continue the seed, and therefore old animals and sterile animals weren't included. And when it says kol achai, that comes to tell me that you cannot bring an animal that doesn't have its rashi evarim intact. Okay, Rabbi Say, we'll stop over here.
Question.
Yeah.
If Noach lived more than a year afterwards, so how can you call him a treifa?
I think the Gemara could have answered that, but it answers another answer. The Gemara could have answered that. The Gemara could have answered that. I had that kasha also. Okay, now we're going to do the Mishnah Yomis.